Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies Flashback, and we've got a lot of movies to get to, 9 movies, so I'm going to try to make these reviews as quick as I can, so let's not waste any more time. This is the weekend of December 18th, 1987, 1 week before Christmas, so yeah, let's get right to it. Start off with the first movie we have here, Eddie Murphy in the stand-up film, Eddie Murphy Raw.
Eddie Murphy, I know you! I'm used to American women that you don't own me. Hey, baby, where you going? You're my woman, ain't you? I don't see no rings on these fingers. Who do you think you are anyway? Well, come and ask me where I'm going.
Eddie Murphy. Raw, the movie.
I'ma be where I'm at.
Catch you in the act.
Okay.
Starts December 18th at a selected theater near you. Check your local listings.
Eddie Murphy's second big comedy special of the 1980s. The first one being his Showtime special, Delirious, which is hilarious in its own right. This one is, of course, a big screen movie version with Murphy doing his show at the Felt Forum, a venue in the Madison Square Garden complex of New York City. And before that, you have a very funny pre-taped sketch of Eddie Murphy's childhood where he starts with the jokes and starts with the jokes as a young kid, co-written by Keenan and Ivory Wayans, featuring Samuel L. Jackson among the cast. And it's a really funny opening to a really funny movie in general, directed by Robert Townsend. Just a really funny movie. Eddie Murphy's stand-up is always funny. This is just great stand-up in general. Not quite as funny as Delirious, but some great gems overall in this movie. Everything from, like, you know, talking about the stuff he parodied in his last stand-up special, stuff like Mr. T, Michael Jackson, calling out Bill Cosby, which is funny because he has a movie out this weekend, and needless to say, Eddie Murphy upstaged Bill Cosby not once but twice this weekend because Bill Cosby's movie that came out is a notorious flop, but we'll get to that one in just a little bit. But, yeah, what more can I say about this movie, man? This film is absolutely brilliant, absolutely hilarious. It's Eddie Murphy doing his best stand-up. Great stuff. Not quite as good as Delirious, but still a great movie overall. What more can I say? Eddie Murphy Raw. So, on to the next film. Batteries Not Included.
Steven Spielberg presents a Matthew Robbins film about some unusual visitors. Welcome, John. This Sunday, December 13th, enjoy a holiday gift from Universal Pictures. A special movie preview. All families admitted free. Batteries not included. Rated PG. This Sunday, one show only. All families admitted free.
Ah, the 1980s, when if you say Steven Spielberg is behind your movie as a producer, chances are it's going to be a memorable movie. This one, not so much. But, it's not as bad as you would think it is. You have small extraterrestrial living spaceships that save an apartment block under threat from property development. Imagine if you took two of the biggest hits of the 80s, Cocoon and E.T., and put them into one. That's pretty much the concept here. There's definitely a lot of interesting things about the movie to admire. The script by Brad Bird. This was his debut as a screenwriter in general. Of course, he'd go on to work on The Simpsons, and needless to say, The Iron Giant and The Incredibles. So he had a legendary career pretty much after this movie came out. The acting, you've got Hugh Cronin, Jessica Tandy, the visual effects, which are still very impressive, and great music by the always memorable James Horner. The one thing that does hurt the movie overall is the plot. There's nothing really about it all that's all that inspiring or interesting about the plot itself. You essentially just have these people who live in an apartment who are about to lose their home by this greedy housing company, and these aliens are coming in to save the day. And that's it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I mean, it's not really a whole lot to work with in terms of an overall story, but I think Brad Bird, the director Matthew Robbins, Brent Maddock, and S.S. Wilson, who made Tremors later on, did the best what they could with the material given to them, but you really felt like they needed a little bit more of a punch to the plot to make it better. And this was originally intended to be an episode of Amazing Stories, which was the show that Spielberg produced as an anthology, a lighter in tone Twilight Zone Tales from the Crypt anthology series, which has a memorable theme song that I've actually used as the intro for movie stuff if you listen very closely. And it makes sense that a story like this would fit more in tone with the series, but as a feature film, it just can't stick the landing. I think as an episode of Amazing Stories, this would have worked fine as it is, but maybe not as a feature film. It's not that it's a bad movie in general, but it's a movie that has a lot of ambition and potential to it and works most of the way through. I just wish the plot was written better. This would have worked all the way around if it had a better script to work with. But as it stands, it's fine. It's a fun little adventure film. Take it for what it is, and I think you can enjoy it overall. Not one of the best Spielberg-produced movies, but certainly not one of the worst ones easily. So on to the next movie, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell in Overboard.
Goldie Hawn has everything money can buy.
I almost had to wait.
Kurt Russell has what's left. How they fall in love is priceless. Overboard, rated PG. Merry Christmas from MGM.
Talk about one of those movies that you saw a lot on television for many, many years, up until most recently when the remake came out. And that's the one you see a lot of times. But in this movie, you have Goldie Hawn as a demeaning, wealthy socialite who suffers from amnesia after falling from her yacht while vacationing on the Oregon coast, only to be taken in by a working-class carpenter played by Kurt Russell, whom she had mistreated. And this is the movie that I always think of when I think of Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. I thought this was the movie they actually met, but no, they had been together for about 4 years prior to this. You have a cast that also includes Roddy McDowall, who's also one of the producers, Edward Herrmann, and Catherine Hellman, directed by Gary Marshall, written by Leslie Dixon. So there are names attached to it. Alan Silvestri did the score for this. Of course, he did Back to the Future. And again, it's a movie you see a lot on television, but kind of like with Batteries Not Included, I feel like there's a lot of ambition to it, but I don't think it's really all that great in general. I don't think there's really a lot there besides Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn having that good chemistry. A fun idea overall, just it kind of goes into predictable territory that you're going to see every time you see one of these type of comedies. I personally didn't get into it. It's kind of like My Sweet Home Alabama or Monster-in-Law, the one that shows up on television all the time. I never got the appeal of it, but then again, it's gone on to have a lasting legacy that led to a remake in 2018 with Anna Faris and Eugenio Derbez. And I've never seen that one, so I can't tell you if that's any good or not, but probably not. But this one in particular, it has a fan base to it. I, for one, couldn't really get into it myself. I just thought it was okay. Nothing too crazy, nothing too spectacular, but not a bad movie either. I mean, I've seen much worse. Speaking of much worse, I think that we're finally heading into the worst thing that we have this weekend, and that is Bill Cosby in the infamous Leonard Part 6.
Episode 2 of the comic movie hit of the season. Bill Cosby meets the maniacal Medusa. Will she take over the world? Or will the devil-may-care bon vivant Bill Cosby save the day and still make an 8 o'clock dinner reservation?
That's all there is for dinner, Leonard.
No coffee. See the world's favorite funny man, Bill Cosby, in Leonard Part 6, an adventure in comedy. Rated PG. Leonard Part 6 starts Friday, December 18th at select theaters.
A movie so terrible that Bill Cosby was literally going on late-night shows and telling people not to see the movie. In fact, he tried to get the television rights to make sure this movie would never air on television, but CBS ended up airing it about 3 years after the movie came out, and yeah, you could pretty much see why. This is a movie where you have the CIA asking for ex-spy Leonard Parker, played by Bill Cosby, in his help in stopping an evil genius named Medusa Johnson, played by Gloria Foster, who's brainwashing small animals into killing people. Leonard, however, has his own problems to deal with, winning back his ex-wife. And we talked a little bit about this movie most recently when I talked about David Putnam's disastrous era at Sony Pictures. You're going to go check that video out. I'll leave a link to it in the corner. But, yeah, this movie, this is a really bad movie. I mean, this is a film that you don't really have to look at right away and realize almost immediately what exactly is wrong with this movie. But it's not a good movie. It's a really poorly written film. It's a movie that just devoid of what Bill Cosby's true talents are. And I think Roger Ebert pretty much summed it up nicely in his review for Leonard Part 6.
In one scene, his 20-year-old daughter brings home a 66-year-old man that she wants to marry. Cosby is appalled. This guy is robbing the cradle. What does he do? He calls for a sandwich and a Coke. And then he holds the Coke bottle prominently next to his face for the rest of the scene. First it says Coca-Cola, then the next shot it says Coke, in case you missed the point. Who released this movie? Columbia. Who owns Columbia? Coca-Cola. What is Coca-Cola doing with this movie? They have a lot of products in this movie, Gene, that you can get a tie-in where you can get the product in connection with buying a ticket for the movie. I think that that is an all-time low. Bill Cosby, the richest man in show business, $67.5 million income last year, reduced to holding a Coca-Cola bottle next to his face in order to get a picture made at Columbia. He ought to be ashamed of himself.
Boy, you're upset. And you know I am too.
Think about this. Bill Cosby, who had the most popular television show at the time, was one of the richest people in Hollywood. What memorable movie did he make during the Cosby Show's run? Except for bad ones. Ghost Dad and this movie. I don't know who his agent was back then, or if he was picking his own movies himself, but man, I mean, obviously he's done much worse nowadays, but man, think about how bad your career had gone at that film career had gone at that point. Yeah, you were still the most popular television star on the planet, but at the same time, you picked some of the worst movies possible to work on here. And yeah, you could say he went on television to basically say, hey, don't go and see the movie. Oh, lightning. That's the gods up there going, you're talking about Leonard Part 6. What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, it's raining outside, but I guess it's also thunderstorming too, because I just heard that thing of thunder. But I actually thought it was much worse. But I could still see a little bit of rain down there, not a whole lot though. But yeah, that's what that noise was. And now I lost my train of thought because, man, that came out of nowhere. But, yeah, you see the movie is bad. You see why the movie is bad, but it's bad, and it's not even bad in a so bad it's good type of way. It's a bad movie where it's just like, they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They're just all going all over the place. Everything is going nuts in this movie, and it's just, you know, this is just a terrible movie. And this is one of those movies that was the death nail for Columbia Pictures being owned by Coca-Cola. And if you watch the movie, Coca-Cola is all over the place, and it's just like just randomly too, like what Roger mentioned in the review, he's literally talking and holding a Coke bottle like this, with the logo in front of it. Obviously, this is Pepsi, but you get the right idea here. Like, he's holding it, making sure that people see that, hey, it was Coca-Cola. We just want to let you know that Columbia Pictures is owned by Coca-Cola, and coincidentally, this was when Coca-Cola finally said we had enough of this and basically said we're getting the hell out of here, not but a year after this movie came out. But you get the idea. The whole movie should not be as bad considering that Bill Cosby was the biggest star in Hollywood at the time, on television at the time. And this is the best he could do with it? Really? Really? Like, yeah, but of course now we know that Bill Cosby is known for much more sinister things, but yeah, this movie is pretty bad. I mean, I don't really need to tell you much more about this movie. That's why it's bad. It's just, if you see the movie, you know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. But just think about this. Bill Cosby himself said, don't see the movie on television when this was coming out. Can you imagine anybody else doing that? I know Dakota Johnson just did it recently with Madam Web, but she tried to make it seem like the movie still had something to it. But even then, you still said yes to this. But yeah, this is a bad movie, so I've already wasted so many minutes of your time, so let's go ahead and move on to a good movie that came out on this particular weekend. Some good movies, finally, starting with broadcast news.
Broadcast news. It's the story of their lives. Rated R. Now playing in theaters everywhere. And also from 20th Century Fox.
Broadcast news. This is James L. Brooks' follow-up to his Oscar-winning Terms of Endearment, and concerns a virtuoso TV news producer played by Holly Hunter who has daily emotional breakdowns, a brilliant yet prickly reporter played by Albert Brooks, and the latter's charismatic but far less seasoned rival William Hurt. It also features Robert Prosky, Joan Cusack, Jack Nicholson's also in the film, Lois Chiles, and it's probably my favorite James L. Brooks movie. I mean, I like Terms of Endearment, I like As Good as It Gets, but this is the movie that I always go to when I think of the best overall movie that James L. Brooks has been attached to as a director. This is easily his best movie. I like the cast overall. 3 heavyweight actors: Holly Hunter, Albert Brooks, William Hurt. A great storyline, taking on the news, making a movie centering around the world of news in general, which is actually William Hurt's second movie as a news reporter. The first one was Eyewitness, which he did with Sigourney Weaver in '81, I believe, which isn't as memorable, but kind of a decent film that's actually worth checking out. But this is a really good movie. I really like the chemistry between the 3 actors. Just good actors all around. That all of them should win Oscars. And William Hurt already has his Oscar. Albert Brooks doesn't have an Oscar, unfortunately, which he deserves. And Holly Hunter already got her Oscar about a couple years later. But like I said, really good movie. I really like this one a lot. It's my favorite James L. Brooks movie, easily. Highly recommend it. So yeah, moving on to the next movie. Another great movie that came out this weekend featuring some Oscar winners. Cher and Nicolas Cage and Norman Jewison's Moonstruck.
Moonstruck is one of the year's best films and a wonderful time at the movies. Raves Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert.
Snap out of it!
Joel Siegel of ABC TV says it's perfect. What a sweet, wonderful film.
Now you talk.
Newsweek magazine adds, Moonstruck is enchanting.
Wait a minute,
Cher, Nicolas Cage, Moonstruck.
Starts Friday at a Famous Players theater near you. Check listings.
Just another comedy masterpiece, man. Another great comedy from the 1980s, which features Cher as a widowed Italian-American woman who falls in love with her fiancé's hot-tempered, estranged younger brother, played by Nicolas Cage. A cast that also includes people like Danny Aiello, Olympia Dukakis, Vincent Gardenia. A movie that won 3 Oscars, including Best Actress for Cher, well-deserved Oscar for her, Best Supporting Actress for Olympia Dukakis, and Best Original Screenplay by the great John Patrick Shanley, who would later give us Joe versus the Volcano. Again, really not much more to say about this one. This is a fucking amazing movie, man. Cher is absolutely hilarious in here. Her and Nicolas Cage just have this great chemistry together. Just a really enjoyable film. A great script by John Patrick Shanley. A strong cast that features some really good top talents. It's a nice slice-of-life movie with this Italian family. And it's just pure perfection, man. It's a really good movie that definitely deserves every Oscar that it should have got and then some. What more can I say, man? Moonstruck, you know, it's a great movie. Snap out of it. Go see the movie if you haven't seen it. So, let's get to some lesser movies that came out this weekend that were supposed to be Oscar contenders. Woody Allen's September.
I'll always wait for your return out of nowhere.
What the hell is this? For crying out loud, somebody throw a pie. I mean, because this is a movie that's inspired by Uncle Vanya, and you know, the intention of this was for Woody Allen to do a movie that was more like a play on film, which doesn't really work as well as you think it would. And in this case, it doesn't work as well as it probably should have. But everyone is gathering at Lane's place for the weekend, and everyone is in love. Unfortunately, each beloveds love somebody else, and no one seems to realize it. Cast includes Mia Farrow, Sam Waterston, Diane Wiest, Elaine Stritch, Jack Warden, Denholm Elliott. Again, a noble effort for Woody Allen to do something that's outside of his norm, but the whole idea of doing a play on film doesn't really work as well as it should, and it does get a little bit too pretentious for its own good, and it gets very, very cheesy at times for a movie that's trying to be a movie that's modeled off of Anton Chigurh's Uncle Vanya, which we've talked about several of them on this show, and not just this show, but time about the movies as well. But yeah, it's a movie that it's not one of my personal favorite Woody Allen movies. It's a film that, like I said, it's a little too pretentious for its own good and gets very cheesy when it at too many points to really recommend it in general. It's just not a good movie overall. So yeah, skip September if you can. But let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is The Dead, which is not a movie I thought it was going to be when I saw the trailer for it.
Like the descent of their last end upon all the living and the dead.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a movie called The Dead to be this period drama, and this is a period drama which takes place in Dublin in 1904 at an epiphany party hosted by 2 sisters and their niece. The story focuses on the academic Gabriel Conroy, played by Donald McCann, and his discovery of his wife Greta, played by Angela Houston's memory of a deceased lover. The cast also includes Helena Carroll, Kathleen Delaney, Dan O'Herlihy, Maria Keane, Donald Donnelly, Sean McClory, Frank Patterson, Cole Meany. Most notable about this movie is that it's directed by John Huston. This was actually his last film as a director because he passed away in August of 1987, so this was released posthumously. And the film got several nominations at the Oscars for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Costume Design. That's really all I know about it, because I never even heard of this movie until now. Because, like I said, it's a movie that I thought it was something completely different. I thought it was going to be like a horror movie, but no. This is a period piece film, and overall, I see the reviews for it are mostly positive overall. And John Huston is a good director, so he doesn't usually turn in a bad movie overall, with a couple of exceptions here or there, but nothing that really screams out terrible movie that I've seen from him. So yeah, not much more to say about The Dead. Let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Ironweed. This is Hector Babenco's follow-up to Kiss the Spider-Woman. Another movie with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. They really tried to put them together in movies in the 80s, and there was not a whole lot of success with the ones with this one, or certainly the last one they did, Falling in Love. I guess this one's a little bit better because it did get some Oscar nominations for Nicholson and Streep. But then again, you give them a phone book to read, and they'll get Oscar nominations for that. But in the film, which is based off of a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, the story concerns the relationship of a homeless couple, Francis, played by Jack Nicholson, and Helen, a terminally ill woman, played by Meryl Streep, during the years following the Great Depression. The film wasn't well received. It was a box office bomb, and yeah, there's really not much more I can add to it, per se, because unfortunately this is one I have not seen either, but I didn't even touch anything. One of these Heinz Field pieces fell off while I was talking, so yeah, I don't even know how that happened. Maybe I got a ghost in here or something, but yeah, like I said, I haven't seen this movie, and nobody really has given me a good reason to see it anyway, because it doesn't really have that much of a legacy behind it, and it's got a good cast to it overall, though. Nicholson Street, Michael O'Keefe, Diana Verona, Fred Gwynne, Nathan Lane, Margaret Whitten, James Gannon, Joe Gavassi, his second film of the weekend with Moonstruck, Frank Whaley, Ted Levine. So there is a good cast involved in here, and it's Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. Usually, the movie they are in may not be great, but they're not going to give bad performances. I mean, they were nominated for Best Actor and Best Actress, but then again, like I said, you can pretty much give them anything and they'd be nominated for that, but I don't know. To me, this is a film that I have no real interest on seeing it, but I don't know. Maybe it's not as bad as people let on. I mean, Hector Babenco did Kiss of the Spider-Woman, which was a really good movie, and Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep very rarely star in crappy movies, but I don't know. I've never seen this movie, so I can't really say for certain if it's any good, but might be something worth checking out one day. Ironweed. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies Flashback. We'll flash back to December 11th, 1987 next time with 4 movies including Danny DeVito, Billy Crystal, and Anne Ramsey in Throw Mama from the Train. We have Michael Douglas, Charlie Sheen, and Daryl Hannah in Wall Street from Oliver Stone. Steven Spielberg's latest attempt to try to create an Oscar-caliber film, which he did several of, but definitely not one of his more memorable films, Empire of the Sun, and we'll also have Cold Steel. So we got 4 movies to look at next time around. We'll take a look at those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.